Change makers, and welcome to The Core, sponsored by Red Apple EdCo. This is your Everything Education podcast. We talk about current events, books to read. We interview education leaders, hear their stories, learn from their biggest lessons, and they share what they wish you knew about what it means to be in education today. I'm your host, Dr. Kia Turner. Buckle up for small seeds of inspiration that can lead to big changes in your classroom practice. Let's take a bite out of today's guest. Hey guys, it is Dr. Kia here, still adjusting, at day 2 of the Teacher Educator Institute put on by TeacherSquared, right? We are here in New Orleans, and like I told you yesterday, I promised to get all new people to vlog, and I had 2 lovely ladies that have been going hard both days of our session that I had to sit down with because they're all the way from the UK. So please introduce yourselves and we'll talk about what you are doing here in Louisiana. Go for it. You go first.
Great. Hi, I'm Faye Preston. I work for a charity called TeachFirst. We specialise in the recruitment, placement and training of teachers where they're needed most in areas of deprivation in the UK. I am head of participant impact delivery, which means I oversee the delivery of all of the training that we do for our teachers, including the work that their teacher educators do.
My name is Jen. I work very closely with Faye at TeachFirst. I oversee the design of our leadership development program.
When you say charity, do you mean like nonprofit? Is it the same as when we say like it's a nonprofit organization?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just checking. So tell us, this is your 3rd year, both of your 3rd year? 3rd time at this conference?
So it's my first, but We've sent people from our organisation every year for the last 3. Yes.
What benefit are you seeing coming to, I told you guys yesterday, I didn't know anything about TeacherSquared until I got signed up for this conference. So I'm blown away personally, but for people who send individuals every single year, what benefit are you seeing? What are they coming back bringing to the organization that causes you to say, we've got to send some more people next year?
So I think initially it started off because we were interested in understanding the role that practice could play in the development of our teachers.
Speak up a little bit. The role of practice?
Yes,
okay.
The role of practice. And we define practice in a very broad way. It's essentially an enactment of something that you would expect a teacher to do in the classroom. However, that definition has grown and changed over the years. So 3 years ago, which was the first time, so I came 3 years ago, it was the first time we sent people. That's really the reason why we were here. I think since then, it's grown and developed into the notion of teacher education more broadly. And I think that in North America, there are some organizations within North America who are leading the way, really, I think, with a global understanding of teacher education. And that's something that we, as teacher educators ourselves and as leaders of the design and delivery of a large-scale teacher development program in the UK, are obviously very interested in exploring.
And I think just to build on that, I agree with everything Jenna said, is like partnership is a huge part of our organisation, and working with other organisations with similar ideals, similar approaches, running similar programmes, we think adds a lot of value. We have huge formal partners in the UK. We work with universities, we work with schools. TeachFirst is part of the Teach for All network, so we work very closely with international organisations who do a similar thing to us. And TeacherSquared is, again, just a really great partner for us to work with. I think networking, meeting people who are struggling with some of the same problems you are, sharing ideas, sharing good practice is one of our core values as an organisation. And we obviously want to make sure we're exemplifying that in our work too. We believe in the value that it brings. So
that's what I was going to. So are both of you former teachers? Snaps. Is that what? Well, the question I always ask on the blog is like, why do you teach? And really, in your case, why do you continue in this work of like new teacher development? Because let me tell you something, okay? Education in general is hard. Guess I'm having a moment with you, viewer. Education in general is difficult. However, teacher education is just as difficult. It's just in a different way, right? And so I always ask, what causes you to continue this work of teacher development so that they can ultimately develop students? You've been classroom teachers. You sort of transitioned to this side of it. What causes you to say, let me keep developing my practice? What is the motivation?
I mean, I think there are lots of things that make us think all the time that we need to get better. I mean, fundamentally, the purpose of our organisation is to raise outcomes for children from disadvantaged communities. And I think what's at the heart of everything that we do is the fact that those outcomes are not shifting. We're not seeing the changes that we want to see for those pupils in a way, for example, that, doesn't compare with other gains that have been made. So if you look at gender gains as an example, there are better outcomes now for particularly female pupils than there were. We haven't seen the same kind of shifts despite enormous resource and investment being poured into it. So because of that, we are always looking for that, not just the next thing, but ways in which we can continue to improve the outcomes for those pupils. And linked to that, obviously, is the quality of education that they're receiving. So I think until we really start to see the movement that we're looking for, then we will always need to look at what we can do differently and more of and better.
And
Go ahead, because you might answer it. Go.
I might not. If I don't, come back to it.
I will. Y'all know I'm so glad. Go.
I love your vlogging
Thank
technique.
you.
I need to learn some of that.
Because people are going to watch us and you want to feel like I'm looking at you. Hey, honey.
Okay, hi. So I taught science in London, which I loved. Working with the children was amazing. It was really different to my own experience growing up in the very industrial kind of northeast of England.
Yeah.
And in my second year of teaching, I don't feel I got the training to make me as great as I could have been, and felt that therefore there were pupils in my classroom that I wasn't accelerating their outcomes. I wasn't giving them the life opportunities that they could have had, and that really kind of stoked my passionate interest in teacher education. I felt like if we believe teachers are the solution, then we must equip those teachers to be as effective as they can. So,
that's a pull quote. We like that. Say it again. If we believe teachers are going to be the solution,
we need to provide them with the support and training to be excellent. I don't know if that was exact.
Look at that. That's okay.
Hopefully
that's okay. And that is actually what I was going to circle back to. It's like, what is at the heart of this? And you know what? For me, it's the exact same thing. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years. And like I may have told you, or like I feel like I've told everybody, I didn't get this kind of professional development. I didn't even know this existed. I didn't know about the New Teacher Project. I didn't know about any of these networks that were really there to accelerate teacher growth. And so while I can say that I did the best I could for my students with what I knew, and even in that sought to push past sort of the constraints that I, had, I could have done more had I been better trained. Yeah. And that is the battery in my back. Like, I think of the hundreds of kids that I've had in my classroom who I built really good relationships with, but I think now, could I have done more to accelerate their, academic development and the fallout for that being accelerated and open up ultimately their life outcomes? Because I taught secondary English, and so I think about those kinds of things, which brings me to, what is something that you are seeing in your practice right now that excites you? So if we're like in this thinking teachers need development, if they're going to change outcomes for kids and if they're the drivers of that change, we're looking at that deep impact, and they are. What's something you are seeing happen, kind of a wave in teacher preparation or ideas around teacher education that really excite you? Yeah. That you're like, I'm so happy this is finally happening, or bring it on. And as soon as it reaches me, I'm going to catch the wave and move it further. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
You go first. That's a good question.
So I've got two.
I've thought about them a lot. Thank you.
I've got two things that excite me about our current approaches at TeachFirst. And it might be the scientist in me that's driving the first one, but I think one is like the depth of understanding we and our teacher educators are gathering on the science behind how children learn. Like, what is it that accelerates or would perhaps inhibit their ability and capacity to learn what you're teaching them in a classroom on a day-to-day basis? Like, I find and Jen can probably speak to this more than I can, but the foundation of using science to really understand and then thinking about, okay, how would you apply this to your context? And giving teachers the space and time to really do that efficiently. So that's one thing that really excites me. And I think the other thing is what Jen mentioned earlier. It's like it's the use of practice with teachers. Like, how do we get them to rehearse and to refine their skills and techniques prior to going into the classroom then during when they're teaching, to really, again, accelerate their growth and performance. So they're the two things I'm probably most excited about, and the two biggest changes I think we've made in the past 2 years.
I completely agree. And I suppose I would go a bit further on the first one and just say it's the use of evidence generally. I think we have missed a bit of a trick really sometimes in teacher preparation, in that, we haven't equipped teachers with the ability to, first of all, the exposure to that kind of wide range of evidence. And then I think the ability to connect that to their practice, so the connection of kind of theory to practice in such a way that iteratively develops their practice kind of over a shorter period of time. So I think we're shortening in terms of the expectations of how we see teachers develop. I think we're trying to shorten the loop. So rather than it being over the course of a year or over the course of 5 years, actually we're saying like, right, by the end of term 1, what do we expect to see? By the end of term 2, what do we
And our terms are semesters.
I'm with you.
Thing.
I got that part. Okay. I know at least
I'm trying to learn.
I'm doing good. Okay.
I know.
But making sure that there's the expectation and the support in place to develop much more quickly over a shorter period of time, and then connecting that to what we're seeing obviously in the outcomes of the pupils that our teachers are teaching.
Okay, one more, and it connects exactly to what you're saying. I would agree with that. One more question for you both would be, given this push to make sure that teachers are properly equipped to deliver instruction, evaluate its efficacy, make changes more quickly, what is one resource that you think every teacher could benefit from knowing about, no matter where they are in their practice? So if they are, you guys know this is my driving question, like if they're in the classroom like I was, looking around for resources, trying to figure out how to improve themselves, because perhaps they're in a system that doesn't know about these kinds of things either, right? What's one thing, a book, a website, a seminar, something, a YouTube channel, that they can know about that would really help support their movement, period?
So there's one thing that stands out to me, and it is unique to our program. It's something, it's a conceptual framework that we have developed to support fundamentally teachers to make better decisions, and that in the like, literally every decision that they might make. So the framework captures.
That is pretty detailed.
Yeah, it captures a lot of things. So there are sort of different elements to it. So you've got values, needs, and context.
Okay.
So it's exploring the personal kind of values that you bring to the table. Why are you doing what you're doing? Wow. The needs of your children, obviously, and being very concrete about what they know, what they can already do, and how do you plan for development based on that. And then context, so looking at the wider community and the sort of the circumstances within which you work. So what are the assets of the community? What are the particular challenges that you're working within? And then again, within the conceptual framework, you've got evidence, experience, and bias. So it's looking at,
I like that,
capturing your own learning and your own kind of development, evidence, which we've talked about. Obviously, it's important in lots of different ways. And then also your personal biases, which I think we've learned a lot today. And I think generally we're getting better at understanding the way in which our biases can affect the way we interact with pupils and colleagues and just the work that we do. And I think when you, first of all, acknowledging all of those elements and understanding that those elements can actually influence your practice, and then trying to kind of, cohere those and think about them collectively. I think what our hope is, and this is very early days in the use of this framework, but we're hoping that it will act as a lens through which you can really deeply consider the decisions that you're making in the classroom. And that might be, what you're teaching, how you're teaching, the way that you're interacting with your pupils, the way that you're talking to parents, lots and lots of aspects of your practice. Yeah. Rather than sometimes just as we know, what happens with teachers, everyone's very busy just going in and kind of making that decision, off the cuff.
I love that. Is there a simplified version of that, or even an article or something that might help teachers to think about it? Yes.
Yeah, we need to
I'm
write
going to put the TeachFirst website underneath this video, so then y'all can just go explore and see if there's some resources there, because I hear you saying that this framework is useful for helping, I would think, like at the beginning of the year even. So if I'm thinking about my classroom, what I'm going to bring into it, kind of the environment I want to create, then I'd start with that values, the first three. Okay.
And context.
There you go, in context and stuff. And then after I'm delivering instruction, if I want to get really reflective about how effective that was and the impact that it had, then I'd use the second three. Yeah. And so to me, one frames the work at the beginning of the year, and the other is kind of one you keep coming back to.
Exactly.
That is amazing.
We're hoping it's
not available, but it will be.
We need to,
and there will be articles written about it. And then I will add them to this blog so that you guys can have it. Thank you for that. What's yours?
Mine are two probably quite obvious. I'm sure you've spoken about them before. So my first one is using Twitter. It sounds really simple, but I've learned so much on Twitter by following teacher educators, by following teachers. I recommend it to all of our teacher educators in TeachFirst and our trainees. And we have like a list of recommended people to follow. It's quite UK based, but happy to share it. I will send you a link to that. But I use it all of the time. Sometimes it can be debates that you kind of don't want to get involved in, but actually the blogs and things that are written there are incredible. And the second one for all new teachers, and we say we have about 3,000 trainee teachers on our program.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Okay.
That's a lot. We ask all of them to buy, rent, lend from the library the Teach Like a Champion 2.0. I think
we use that too.
Yeah, it's one of the most valuable resources that we return to time and time again. It's great for new teachers. It can be supported in groups, independently. It's just something that we really use. And I'd love to have a UK version one day. So
this is also in the works.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we're writing a conceptual framework, and then we're going to do management the TeachFirst way. It's coming.
If someone wants to write Teach Like a Champion UK 2.0,
yes, there you go.
That would be great. I would buy a copy. Yeah.
I'm going to toss out there to you guys. Normally I don't, but to wrap us up, I think that it's important that you get out of where you are. So if you're in a district, go see other districts. If you can go to a conference, even if you can send one person, go to that conference and make sure that it's a person that's going to information gather and bring back those resources to help push everyone's thinking. There is nothing like collaboration. And I know I had someone say that yesterday on the blog, but there's nothing like collaboration and getting a new lens on the same problems that really can help you to do some innovative things. So if you can get out there, then get out there. So if we want to keep up with you too, find out more about what's going on with TeachFirst, how do we keep up with you? P.S. These are social forms of contact, like DM me on Twitter, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Definitely not personal cell phone numbers or anything like that. We love you, but from a distance. That's what it is.
Yeah, you can contact me on Twitter. It's @FayeCraster. I think I'm the only one on there.
I'll put that under here.
Yeah.
I'll put it under here for you guys.
DM me, link me. And if you're in the UK and you want to see some teachers, visit a school, come see our program, get in touch. We like hosting people.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Same.
DM you on Twitter.
Yeah.
And come by TeachFirst. Well, thank you, ladies, for sitting down. I said 10, but we went to 18. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, you guys have been wonderful. I appreciate it. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to The Core. Wherever you are listening to us, be sure to like our show, subscribe, and share the episode that's meant the most to you. We appreciate every single one of our subscribers, as do our sponsors. We look forward to seeing you next week. You can also check us out on YouTube at Red Apple Edco. If you'd like to see more video of these conversations, we have them posted there.